Watch who?
Hello, and welcome to Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
Here we are, just chilling out at the lovely jazz festival. It's really nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sun's out. We're enjoying some lovely music.
Sun's out, jazz out, yeah.
Oh, we better start the podcast, shouldn't we? Really? We can't just sit around and listen to jazz all the time.
Just breathe.
Well, we've been here all afternoon. But hang on a second, I just need to go and get my tape signed by that person that's done a really great solo. Excuse me, will you sign my tape for me?
Sure.
Oh my god, are you Mrs. Remington fan?
I surely am, honey. That was not what I was expecting, but great, let's do it.
No,
Would you like it dedicated?
Oh, yes, please, yeah. But no, we are joined by David.
Hello.
Also known as Mrs. Remington fan.
Oh, yes. The day is here.
The day is here.
Sarah will finally know who Mrs. Remington is. And you know what, viewers? I'm excited.
Do you remember when, we first had you on which one was it? It was
Is it the Web Planet?
Web Planet, yeah. All that time ago, and you were like, in the future, Sarah, in many years' time, a name will make sense to you, and the day has come.
We're here, viewers, listeners. We're here.
Sure. Can we get straight into Mrs. Remington a second? Can you just explain to everyone why you chose Mrs. Remington?
Because she's the greatest character ever to appear in Doctor Who. And I shall tell you for why. And she does nothing, right? And behind the scenes, the script editor said that they actually had to cut bits of the plot out in order to accommodate her. So not only
Who is she? Who is she?
Where did you find her? Well, I think we'll get into how she came into it when we get started. But she literally comes in. They take the plot, part of the plot out to go, let's accommodate this woman in a limousine. And she does nothing. And do you know what? That's why I love her.
She epitomizes the side characters that we talk about of glorifying these people that have very limited time on screen and yet shine brighter than the sun.
Exactly. I mean, we'll get into it more when we get to her about why they cast her, who she is and everything. But I honestly just think it's just the most random thing ever.
When I was watching it while I get my nails done, I was like, what? I still remember what is going on. She was like, who's that? And I was like, I have no idea what's happening.
Well, it's Silver Nemesis, everyone, this week, in case you were wondering. Sorry, we just had to get straight into the big questions.
And I just want to state, I was so proud of myself when, while watching this, the thingies came on, the Cybermen. Because last week I said to you, I was like, this is a Cyberman story. Come on, the Silver Nemesis. It's got to be. And you all will see. And I when that came on, I was like, oh, yeah. Felt like I owned it so much. I was so over the moon that I got that right.
Okay, well done. Yeah.
Mark just went full Holly Jarvis there. Okay.
This is what people don't get behind the scenes. It's the sass of Mark at me and my proud moments.
Well, Sarah, can I just ask you, what's it like watching Doctor Who while you're getting your nails done?
It was interesting. I'm not sure if I'll repeat it. It passed the time. I'm just there getting my nails done. So
did your nail technician watch as well?
No, because she was doing my nails.
Oh, yeah.
She starts drawing Cybermen on them just for...
Shout out to Abby doing my nails.
But did she listen to the soundtrack?
I mean, she heard it. She could hear everything because she could hear things going on. She was like, is that the doctor? And I was like, yeah. And then the Cyberman talk, I was like, do you mean this noise or the previous noise? Which one do you mean?
Did you have your headphones in?
No, I just had it out. She's got a little room. It's just us in the room and the dog. So I just stuck it up. She has a holder you can put your phones on. So I put my phone on it. I was like, yeah, sorry about this. The holder as well, wish I could have taken a picture. The holder has rabbit ears at the back. So it's like 2 rabbit ears, and then you put your phone in it. And there was a point where Sylvester McCoy was like in the middle, and then he just had these 2 rabbit ears at the top. It looked great. I did the first episode at home, and then I did episodes 2 and 3. And I thought there were going to be 4 episodes because Mark had told me there'd be 4.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I was surprised. I always get mixed up in these seasons, which is 3 and 4. So yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have time. I'm gonna have to watch 3 episodes here, and it was 2.
All I can say is fake fan. No, I'm joking.
No, to be honest, I was surprised when it was only 3.
I realised watching this, I was watching the extended edition of all 3 episodes. So I was like, it's not in the original. It's not. Oh, right, this must be the extended version. So I'm intrigued to know what is and what isn't there now.
Well, you've got all the deleted scenes because the video came out, and it's the coolest video ever because it came out with like a shiny sort of silver and green cover back in the day, and I remember it so well because I got it from a actual video rental shop. I didn't get it from the library or anything. It was called Titles.
No, sorry.
No. I didn't know. I was so young. I didn't know what Blockbusters was. This is like, I don't know. We didn't have a Blockbusters. We had Titles, it was called.
I'm from a tiny town and we had a Blockbusters.
No, it was Titles, and then it turned to Prime Video, not Amazon, and then it shut down. But it was the coolest video shop ever because it was like, I mean, I'm really young going in here. It felt like it was just like the ceiling just went up and up and up of videos, and it was like red plastic on all the walls, and the videos were like front on rather than side, so they're all like in slots in the wall, and you just walk around and it was just rooms and rooms of all of these videos. And there was Silver Nemesis, the shiny video, with the extended deleted scenes. But yeah, there is a longer version of this, isn't there? There's probably like 4 episodes worth.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, ended up on the cutting room floor, including a lot of the scenes where Mrs. Remington got put in its head.
Well, we start off in South America. A bit of an unusual opening, a bit of an exotic opening, although I don't think it actually is South America.
Of course it's not.
With Nazis. And we've got our main villain, De Flores. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think it's De Flores.
Yeah. Because there's always like a guy that's sort of like in a Cyberman, like the guy in The Invasion, Tobias Vaughan. Actually, I've got a joke. Sorry, I've got to do this now. This is my joke that I made up when I was watching this. Okay.
He's so excited. Look at it.
Yeah, he used his hands, everyone.
Why did the Cyberman buy a mop?
I don't know. Why did the Cyberman buy a mop?
Because he wanted to clean the floors.
I'm so happy at that. Look how happy he is.
There we go.
Love.
So
Well
that's
done.
the floors.
Mark's UK tour starts.
Coming to a town near you.
We've got all that set up, and he's got a bow. No, he's got an arrow. No, he's got a bow
Yeah.
because he was going to shoot that parrot, and he doesn't. But he has the other actual bow, doesn't he? So we've got Nazis there, and then we're back in time, and we've got Lady Painfort.
Fear not, Richard. It is the Nemesis come alive.
Alive?
Why, yes. Which means it is complete. And now, it shall be mine.
And you know what we got to say? You know what? This is the first thing we've got to say about the story. Keys of Marinus talk. Because Lady Painful was in the Keys of Marinus.
No.
She was.
Because she had one of the best lines in this whole thing that I literally had to stop my nails getting done because I was laughing so hard. And it's in the 3rd episode, and she's saying to I'm really jumping around now, sorry. I mean, to the end, I'm jumping. He goes to Richard, I don't know, I'm always so mean to you. And he's like, oh, my lady, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, you are so good and kind, and I am so evil. And I nearly fell off the chair laughing because I was watching it and she's just staring out into the sky, and I'm so evil. She's She's evil lady. Who is she in Keith the Marinus?
So I think she's called Carla, and she's
The
the one
evil
that
one.
ties Susan up and says on the phone, "I've got Susan kidnapped."
No.
Yeah.
That is such a throwback. I get why they brought someone from one of the best episodes ever to the 25th anniversary
Yeah.
season.
That's a good point, because this is supposed to be the 25th anniversary story.
25 years since she came back, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
all
Will
it's
be.
25. It's celebrating 25 years of Keys and Marinus. Yeah,
Obviously.
basically.
Of course.
I mean, I don't think in terms of the story as a whole, it's the best sort of anniversary story.
It's an odd anniversary story. I'm sure we'll get into this.
Well, I mean, I'm going to do a Sarah and skip right to the end because I've got to say this now. It's basically Remembrance of the Daleks. Because even Ace says at the end, just like how you defeated the Daleks, and you're like, right, so you've literally just told the audience that this whole 3 episodes is Remembrance of the Daleks, but not done as well.
Because it feels like Remembrance of the Daleks could have been the anniversary story as well, with all
It
the
should have been.
throwbacks and everything. Yeah.
Just
Because-
not a lot happens for an anniversary episode. I mean, the Cybermen almost are like in partnership with the Doctor. Like, it's a weird story for that.
But it is weird. It is very much, yeah, it's Remembrance of the Daleks, because you've got the statue, haven't you? And then in the other one, you've got Hand of Omega, the same thing. Something's in an orbit in space or whatever. The Doctor's already knows about it already. And then instead of the 2 lots of Daleks, you've got the Cybermen and the Nazis. And there is a bit of a runaround in this. This time watching it, I noticed a lot the lack of actual story. It's still really fun to watch. But yeah, in terms of the plot,
There is not much story. There's like weird non-cameo cameos. Like we have the Corgis and the Queen moment, which I knew Mark would be over the moon about.
were they supposed to get Prince Andrew?
It was Prince Edward. Because I thought it was Prince Andrew.
I was going to say.
This, and it was Prince Edward. The other weird cameo, which is this is really weird, that you know the mathematician, that little guy who I thought of
Oh yeah,
Sarah, because Sarah probably loves him and would want to take him home and put him in the corner. He was offered the First Doctor. It's a really weird kind of like thing. He was one of the people either offered it or was on the list to play the First Doctor. It's all very sort of like weird connections of people that were in it.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the only thing I think that might redeem this story a little bit is the amount of weird background story connection. There's a lot. Mark knows this, but I've had a few nights in Windsor Castle, and I'm drunk in Windsor Castle. Let's just say.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what? When they were talking about, I was like, I'm sure Sarah said she's been to Windsor Castle or something, because I've visited as a tourist the actual Windsor Castle, and I was thinking someone stayed there, and I thought it was you.
Shall I say the New Year? Have I ever said the New Year story on here, Mark? You know the music. There's a New Year, and I was in Windsor Castle, and it's a bit of a weird place because, like people live within the grounds. So there's like houses within the grounds and flats and things. And I had a friend whose partner wasn't working there, so we stayed there. But like people who are staff also, if they've done long service, they're given like a house, and it's usually in Windsor in the castle. And they might leave once every 2 weeks, right? To go and get their shopping at Waitrose and then go back. They just never leave. So where it's really odd. And like there's a doctor's in there. If you need anything like medical, there's a doctor's in the grounds. It's really odd place. And also because you do like changing the guards and stuff, you can't leave at certain times and stuff. It's a very odd place. It's really cool, but it's really odd. There was a New Year that I had there, and the landlady was away. We knew this because the flag wasn't up. So the Queen was in Edinburgh.
I was going to say, by landlady, you mean
I
Queen.
mean the Queen.
Right, okay.
I thought you sort of genuinely meant there was like a woman called Ethel or something who owned Airbnb it.
They call her the landlady. The landlady was away. Yeah, because she's in Scotland for like Christmas and stuff. So we had this party for New Year where we just were in different people, like all the houses, 3 or 4 houses opened up, and we just had this big party. And we ate a load of chili and drank champagne all night because different people brought bottles. And I got to bed at 7 a.m. the next day. I literally just like walked and stumbled to bed. But at midnight, we went out to the top of the castle on the grounds to watch the fireworks because you can see over to London. So you can see all the fireworks going on across London. And it's awesome. And we're up there watching the fireworks and a load of people just got naked. And so there was just loads of naked people like, watching the fireworks.
Can I just check, how old are you here? This is not a school trip or anything.
No, God.
All right. I was just checking.
How old are they? 21, 22?
Okay.
21, I want to say. I did have a night out. I went like one random Thursday night, had food. We went out to the like Weatherspoons in Windsor or whatever. And we went and got like a dirty kebab. And you also have to give all your ID. Like they have to get your ID in advance and stuff. So like they can, so we're going through and she was in because the flag was up. So like our landlady didn't have to be quiet, but we were all eating like dirty kebabs walking through the grounds. So I like when the funeral, the weddings, all that stuff, I cannot look at that seriously because I just look at those grounds and I'm like, I know that ground. I've been drunk though. I've seen a naked bum there.
I mean,
many naked
Windsor
bums. There are about
Castle's
40
nice.
of us.
This is fake Windsor Castle, though, in Doctor Who, unfortunately.
Sarah just has the best stories.
Viewers haven't heard the story I told just before. So
Well, that's
and that's for another time.
That's for the extended VHS version,
Yes.
which will be out in Hobbycraft or what was it called? No, Trail. Trial.
That's one for coffee members.
Titles.
That's for the dusters. Hooray!
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Windsor Castle.
Well, we just got to Mrs. Lady Painford, haven't we? I thought to say Mrs. Remington. Let's got Mrs. Remington.
We are literally at the start, Mark.
2 minutes in.
In the first 5 minutes of the episode.
There is a lot going on straight away, which has happened a lot in these stories. You are catching up a little bit because they're talking about, well, she wants to time travel and they've got this potion and there's all of that going on. And you've just had the Nazis, then you've got that, and then you've got talking about the Nemesis statue landing and stuff. There's a lot of info crammed in, isn't there?
Yeah, once you sort of realise who everybody is.
I just remember feeling it jumped around a lot. I'm getting a lot of information. Again, sometimes I just have to be a sponge and I'm not going too much into it. I'm just sort of like soaking in what I'm given, which is boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, okay, well.
Which I think sometimes is the best way to watch it, isn't it? I mean, it's just like find out who these people are as you're watching it.
Yeah. And sometimes if you think about it too hard, that's when you find all the flaws and issues. So it's better just to sit and sponge it in.
But it is a bit weird, though, because you have all these different... I feel like it happens a lot around all of these stories. There's lots of different locations, lots of different people, and you go from one to the other, and it's important stuff for the plot later on. It sets it all up. Then you don't get the Doctor and Ace until a bit later, considering you've been given all this story stuff. I feel like the editing and stuff, it always happens around these things. It cuts back and forth a lot.
Well, we also talked about Smart like a few weeks ago in that we don't see them land. They're just there.
Yeah,
We've
that happens a
stopped
lot.
seeing them arriving at places. That always was the thing. You started in the TARDIS and they'd pull their things and you'd say, oh, we're here at so-and-so. And we go out and we have our little explore. And we don't do that. And they're just there. They're sat there like we just were at the start of this episode on the lawn listening to jazz.
But what's interesting is on the countermeasure that this is one of the few stories where TARDIS goes everywhere. Normally, the TARDIS lands in one place. And
But we don't see inside the TARDIS at all in this story. And it's been a while since we've been in the TARDIS.
I think the set was broken, wasn't it, or something, behind the scenes. Isn't that right? Wasn't like the set falling down and they just were
by the next suit, they get rid of it by the end of this series. Yeah. And then they...
I was going to say,
don't
it
use
had
it.
to be something like that because it's so evident that, like, that is missing.
But the script editor didn't like it. He was the one that was like, I think they're useless scenes. We want to just get straight into the story.
I think also partly is because there are only 3-parters. You've got to get in, you've got to, whereas something like Paradise Towers, one of my favourites, that has time to set up. You have time to set up what Paradise Towers is, and then you meet the characters and Whereas I think with a lot of the 3-parters, it's just like, boom, in, go. We've only got 70 minutes to tell this story.
Also, and I've never noticed this before this story, I think maybe it was mentioned in Paradise Towers, but I've definitely spotted it. They make a lot of talk about the Doctor's height. It's definitely mentioned at least twice in this story.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Lady Painful
No.
says something, doesn't she?
She says like that small man or something, or that small doctor. And the I'm sure the Cybermen say something, or maybe it's the officer guy. He says like the small one or something. But they make and because he makes a comment, he says, "Oh, less of that." And I can't remember who he says it to, or whether I've mixed that up with Paradise Towers. But there's been a few that have never been a thing before. Could be wrong. Someone will correct me.
Do you know the I'm looking at Mark when I say this because Sarah's not going to know this. Do you know the funny story about the DeFlores actor? I've got to tell you because it's a really funny story. Sophie Aldred told this story once where so he was a famous German actor, but he hated playing villains because he was always getting cast as villains. He only agreed to do this so that he could watch Wimbledon because it was being filmed at the same time as Wimbledon. Anyway, apparently he turned up, hated the script, didn't really want to do it. He turned up apparently for the read-through, and he'd been given Dragonfire to watch and to get a bit of a sort of sense of what Doctor Who was. Got to the read-through, and Sophie Aldred wasn't there because she was filming another episode. I think she was filming the next one. Someone else read it, and then when he arrived on location, he was like, "Who is this woman? Who are you?" sort of thing. And she said, "Oh, I'm Sophie Aldred." And he went, "Oh, you were in Dragonfire, weren't you? I recognise you. You were in Dragonfire." And she said, "Yeah, I was." And he went, "Sophie, you were so fat."
Oh
My God.
And that was the first thing he said to her. And she was like, "Well, I hope we enjoy working with each other."
I thought he did more in this story. He doesn't do a lot. He's
No,
there for the sake of it.
And it doesn't seem like he's having a great time, if I'm honest. Watching it again, he seems very bored.
He reminds me of Anthony Ainley a bit, just in terms of, I don't know, he just looked like him a bit and sounded like him. I don't know, I just got Anthony Ainley vibes. But no, he just follows everyone. It's a bit of a chase, isn't it? They're all following around this bow and arrow, basically. They're going from A to B, just wandering around.
But they really are just following a bow and arrow. You are completely right with that.
And if you look at Lady Painful, who literally chews the scenery, spits it out, regurgitates it, and eats it again. I mean, she's like, she's camp on a plate. So you've got someone like her who's giving it everything she's got, and then you've got him. You can really kind of tell who's having a laugh, basically.
And then, you can tell that she's having a lot of fun doing it, that her character is ridiculous. She's evil. And like, she's enjoying the moment of it. Or if she's not enjoying it, she's making the most of it.
Do you know my favourite bit? Because you're talking about your favourite line was that. My favourite bit, and it's one of my favourite bits in the whole of Doctor Who, when they land in that tea room and there's the two women there looking at her like really chill. And then when she leaves, instead of opening a door, she just gets the chair and is like...
Nobody in that room notices that.
No one bats an eyelid. In fact, these two people have just arrived. You
like
even
this.
See... and you even see the waitress at one point taking an order.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
You're like, you what?
There's just two people that have appeared that look like they have come from another time. Literally. They're wearing odd clothes and no one bats it.
She's literally like, oh, it's not my job description. I ain't doing any of that.
Those chairs in the tea room, my parents have exactly those chairs in their loft. So if anyone wants to recreate the tea room in Silver Nemesis, just give me a call. I've got the exact same chairs.
When you noticed that, Mark, were you really happy?
Well, yeah. Well, no, I was like, "There's the chairs." I know those chairs.
I can imagine this scenario of Mark being like, "The chairs." No, that's like the Queen's cows. That's Mark.
Oh, but we have the Doctor and Ace have that bit in the river, don't they? At the beginning, they fall off the smallest bridge ever.
But I wondered, the river, I don't know if you noticed, I was like, is that a real river? It looks like it's a fake one because I think you can see the plastic in the background and the plants.
I
literally
don't know.
was like that looking. I think there was.
Maybe they've got something underneath. I don't know, but
keep it safe.
It's really Sophie Aldred going in, but it's a stunt Sylvester McCoy that gets her out. But can I just talk about jazz a minute? Because I just had when I saw them do the jazz, it just gave me flashbacks to Jazz Cafe at the gate and a particular jazz cafe that I had to work.
So for our listeners, me and Mark, when we used to work together, we used to have these pretty much every night of the week was a different theme night. We had like a philosophy cafe where people talked about philosophy, science cafe where people talked about science, and then we had jazz cafe where people played jazz. Go on.
Yes. So it was a jazz cafe night. I'd worked all day. I don't know where you were, Sarah. You were definitely around. But I was just about to leave after working all day, and they were like, "Oh, we haven't got anyone to work tonight. There's no manager. There's no one to work on the bar. There's nobody." And
they were like, Sarah's run away.
And everybody went home for some reason. I don't know what happened. So I was like, I was on my own. And there wasn't just Jazz Cafe. There was other classes going on in the whole building and the bar open. And also earlier on that day, this woman had phoned up and was like, "Oh, I want to run a jazz night. I'm coming to the jazz night tonight. Can I talk to someone about the bookings and everything?" And I was like, "No, there's not going to be anybody there. Make an appointment, phone up some other time." She's like, "No, I'm coming tonight. I want to sort out the booking and stuff." And I was like, "You can't. There's not going to be anyone here." Later on, I'm on my own. I have to leave reception. I have to leave the front door open. I'm on the bar. I'm setting up the jazz cafe. I'm making sure they're not putting all the instruments in the wrong place and stuff. And all the classes are happening. It was just insane. And then this woman, and then there was this older woman with a massive like double bass thing in the corner going like, duh, 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 and she kept beckoning over, being like, "I want a gin and tonic" or whatever. So I was running back and forth to this woman playing bass, and she's like, "No, I want an ice cube in this gin." I was like running back and forth. Anyway, on the bar, I don't know who's walking through the building because there's no one on the front door. I'm not taking any money or reception or anything because I'm on the bar. And then up to the bar comes this woman. "Oh, I phoned earlier about booking the jazz night thing." I was like,
"What did you say?"
Sorry. I said, "I'm sorry. I literally, I'm on the bar. I can't." She's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll sit down over here and wait for you." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I had to sit down and have this meeting with her about booking a jazz cafe.
I'd have lied.
While jazz is going on, in the middle of running up and down trying to serve people on the bar as well, and that double bass woman with her gin and tonics, it's just giving. And when I saw that jazz and Silver Nemesis, I was like, "Oh my God, it brought it all back."
Flashback.
I was just like, Anyway, she did book the jazz night in the end. She was so annoying though. I was just like, I can't do all this stuff. Can't do this.
Did you shoot her into a river like they did? No, I'm joking.
Should have done.
I mean, I would have done that. Me and Mark had very different ways of like dealing with.
No, I said no. She just wouldn't. She was just there. She just stayed at the bar.
Her. I was
stayed at the bar with
like,
all.
Okay, carried on.
Anyway.
I'm the worst.
Anyway, I don't like jazz cafes or jazz things particularly.
My only thing to add about this was that, you know, the guy playing the jazz, Courtney Pine, he once was doing a concert in Cambridge, and I was like, "Should I go with my Silver Nemesis DVD cover?" I didn't.
Oh, he should have. So he was like an actual real, like a cameo, cameo.
Yeah. He was on Portrait Artist of the Year recently.
Oh.
That's how I knew he was famous, because he was sitting on. And of course, everyone's like, "He's a well-known jazz musician." I was like, "Silver Nemesis, isn't it?"
Yeah, I love Portrait Artist of the Year, so might have to look that one up.
Can I tell you my Lady Painful story?
Yes.
So when I was working in the theatre, we had a show on with a particularly nasty actor who I'm not going to name because I'm a professional, but I'll do it off mic. And he said to me one day, he said, "I've got a friend coming to see the show. Please put the ticket under my name and she will say my name," and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he was the sort of person that basically looked down on you, theatre workers. And I'm like, "I'll let you into the building every day, mate." Like, you know? About an hour and a half later, this woman walks in, and it's Lady Painful. And I'm sat there and I'm like, "I've got to say something. And she came over and she went, "I've got a ticket under the name of blah, blah, blah." And I just went, "Were you Lady Painful in Silver Nemesis?" And she looked me up and down and went, "Were you born when that went out?" And I went, "No." She went, "Well, you should know who I am, darling, but yes, I am." And for the rest of the day, I was uncontrollable, to the point of the actor who then came out to see him was very annoyed that I made more fuss over her than I did him. Because I was like,
nice.
She was absolutely lovely. I met her later at another event, and she was very shocked that everyone wanted to meet her. Had a really long queue of people. She was like, "Why do all these people want to meet me, darling? I don't understand." But I always just remember her, that particularly horrible actor looked very disgruntled, and I'm like, "Painful, oh my God, Lady Painful."
You could have said, "Were you in Keys of Marinus?"
I know, I didn't think of it, but yeah.
David went where David went. Okay.
I'm like, where's your dress, love?
It does look a bit uncomfortable. That collar and
That
everything she's
style,
got on.
Mark. That style was not made for the women. Okay. That's all I'll say on that. As a woman, that era of time was not kind to the women. Okay.
Anyway, so back to the story. So they've been in the river. That's all that happens. We've got a bit of action. But this is the Doctor knowing sort of everything that's going on already and keeping everything to himself. We've had that quite a bit now. It's a little bit annoying.
The better part of this was previously it's just been like, oh, the Doctor knows what's going on. That's fine. At least it was like an alarm went off and he was like, oh, I set an alarm for something. And I quite liked that. I really connected with that as a moment, actually. I'm constantly setting alarms or forgetting what I'm doing or where I'm supposed to be. So I enjoyed that.
But it's even more than that, because then Lady Painfort is saying that she knows who the Doctor really is, and there's all of that kind of stuff. So I suppose they've done that. It's a good one to do in the 25th anniversary story to sort of hint at some other stuff.
I thought that, and I did enjoy that as an element, actually. It kind of made it a bit bigger and broader. Is there something we don't know if we've been watching this for this long? That's quite fun. Yeah,
I think all the stuff with the statue, though, that he knows who... I mean, Lady Painfort knows who he is. He knows Lady Painfort. He knows about the statue and everything that happened. So the story is, right, Lady Painfort, she's like a normal lady, and then this silver thing lands in her garden, whenever, and she makes a statue of it to look like her. So she gets someone to,
What? Hang on. What
That's
lands
the story.
The rock lands in her garden. The what lands in her garden?
So the Silver Nemesis statue that is up in space that lands.
Yeah, she's made that.
She's made that, and it looks like her. And the Doctor said later on, he explains, she's like a normal lady in the whatever century. This alien thing lands in her garden or wherever. I don't know why that's funny.
The backyard, right?
I was thinking of Annika Wills's garden.
Going out there to trim the roses. There it is.
Yeah, it lands in Annika Wills's garden. And
that's the title of the episode.
And then,
What's landed in Annika Wills's?
It lands in Annika Wills's garden. I'd like to be in Annika Wills's garden. Anyway, sorry.
So she then somehow gets someone to morph this alien thing into a statue of her. Then, am I missing a bit of the story where the Doctor then blasts it into space from the 16th century or whatever, and it goes and it's in a loop to come back to Earth every 25 years? That's what I understood. Is that right?
Do you know what, Mark? I've never understood that, so I'm actually quite pleased you explained that to me, because I was sat there going, why is she a statue? Because I thought her morphing into it at the end was right, but no, I'm going to say that's perfect.
So I think that's what happened. It doesn't really explain how she time travels and stuff like that, if you think about it too much in that way.
It feels like, why did she decide to go so far into the future?
No, because it's
every 25 years. Why didn't she wait 25 years?
Oh, it orbits near the Earth every 25 years, and when it gets near the Earth, bad stuff happens. But this is the first time that it's actually landing. In terms of watching it, that's what I think we're supposed to get. She's carved this alien thing. She's sort of met this alien thing, and that's how she's got her power.
Yeah, I'd say that.
I think so. And then the Cybermen, they just... One, they're in it because it's called Silver Nemesis, and we need a silver thing. And two, they have somehow heard about the statue, want the statue. And then also...
What does it do?
Well, it gives you ultimate power. It's like a weapon. It's like the Hand of Omega.
Did you not see that bit where she sat in that little bus stop and going, "All things shall be mine, all things." Yeah. I've sat in that bus stop and I said exactly the same thing, and I nearly got arrested. I didn't nearly get arrested, but I sat there and went, "All things shall be mine." I looked like a tramp, probably.
But so yeah, it's weird.
Anyway,
anyway, I don't know how the Nazis have heard of it. He's got the arrow, like the bow and the arrow have come separated. So whatever's happened.
What were they doing in Windsor Castle?
They landed in Windsor Castle because the bow or the arrow was in there because it's been floating around since the 16th century, been given, amongst the aristocracy, and it's been given to the landlady.
Yeah.
And she's kept it in her vault of gifts. And then when they get there, they're like, that's when the Doctor and Ace land in Windsor Castle basement. And then when they get there, it's like, oh, it should be here, but it's gone. The Nazis have stolen it because they've heard, Raiders of the Lost Ark style, that this thing is powerful.
But I also didn't understand, because they follow the Queen and her corgis. They go into that room, they open a door, and they're just there.
Who's there?
The Nazis aren't there.
No, there's security. See, this is where things get really complicated, because there's a deleted scene where they have a big chase around Windsor Castle with the security guards. But in the actual episode, it's just security guard. Isn't there a bit at the beginning where they're on the computer and they're like Nemesis?
Yeah, you're right. So the Nazis are tracking the meteorite thing, so they know that's coming in. They must know they've stolen the bow or arrow or whatever it is. I can't remember which is which now. And then Lady Painfort is like, they're all converging because they know that the Nemesis statue is going to land. And where it lands and where they have their fight is where the O2 Arena is now. That was all wasteland back then. That's Millennium Dome was built all over that bit.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've just had why is Lady Painfort come to present day when she's been waiting since why? Because if it comes maybe 25 years...
So I think what happened, she had the statue and that, or whatever. Somehow the Doctor's launched it into space. Here we go again. I'm going to keep saying this story until we get it. Right. So
there'll be questions at the end.
The Doctor's launched it into space.
Even the story, and someone has to correct Mark. Go on.
The Doctor's launched it into space. And so Lady Painfort's like, I want my statue back. She gets that old guy to calculate when it's next going to, return to the Earth.
I thought you said the Doctor launched it into space.
Yeah, I did.
But then I think every 25 years it comes back to Earth.
It does.
But then why is it landed? Oh, right.
But this is the first time it's landed, because the first time it went near the Earth, like World War I happened or whatever. The second time it went near the Earth, JFK got shot. The third time it come near the Earth, or whenever, it landed. And so Lady Painfort's like, calculate for me when the statue is going to land, because I want my statue. Old guy's like, here's your potion. It's in 1988.
Mark, can I just say you're really bad at maths if you've said the third time?
Well, whatever, you know.
11, and the third time it lands every 25 years is 1980.
You know what I mean. I'm not that maths guy working out the potion, all right?
Oh, God.
Anyway, so are we all clear on what's going on?
No, but yes, go on.
And then the Cybermen are like, we want in on this statue as well. So, but then the Doctor knows all of this. And he's like, my alarm clock says the Cybermen are going to destroy all the Earth because they want the Nemesis statue, because it's coming to the Earth. And I also know Lady Painfort is on her way as well. So then they all meet up at the O2 Arena.
Yeah.
In the future, in the past, and have a fight. There we go.
Can I also say, though, and I've got to say this, banging cliffhangers in this story.
They saved my life.
Don't thank them yet. You might live to regret it.
What are they?
Cybermen.
Well, I mean, it's cool to see the Cybermen at the end of part 1.
Yeah, and I think the second one as well.
Great. It was a great cliffhanger. I was very happy when I saw that.
I mean, I like the way where they walk out of the ship and they sort of, it's choreographed that they don't miss each other because they go sort of across each other. That's very tough to do. It's like country dancing. It's very
like
tough
line
to
dancing.
Yeah, it's like line dancing. It is like line dancing. And they look more extra shiny this time.
Yeah. The we haven't talked about this, but I did share it with Abby, my nail girl. The statue is absolutely terrifying.
Oh, cool! Yeah, it's a good effect.
That's good. I like the fact that you're scared by it.
I mean, it's a cool technique.
I turned around my camera to show her, and she was like, "Oh God, yeah, that is." So she also agreed.
Yeah, it's cool. I think that's actually actual Lady Painfort.
Yeah, she's in it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah,
she's in the thing. They've got the hair and everything.
Cast.
Yeah.
Wonder if she got double pay. I hope so. If you're going to be playing 2 characters, you want a bit of extra pay, don't you?
Yeah. And she doesn't get top billing. Rude.
We've got the thing where the Cybermen are killed by gold again, gold arrows, gold coins.
That's very camp when she's like a hit, a palpable hit.
It's just the idea of this woman from the 16th century and her toy boy, whatever he is, Richard, and her Richard in the 80s running around in a cafe. It's just so hilarious as a thought and concept.
It's the opposite of that film when Whoopi Goldberg goes back in time to medieval times.
Oh yeah, what was
the
that?
Opposite of that. I can't remember what it's called.
That was a long afternoon that we were never getting back, wasn't it?
Yeah, but okay. Well, while we're still on that subject, then walking around the town, and then they meet those guys.
I've been around that town. I have leaned up against that wall, looking just as menacing. Can I add?
It's an odd moment, isn't it? All it reminded me of, Mark, was you saying last week about Margaret Thatcher, and it just sort of highlights the political climate and the feel of the time.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you're watching at the time, is that a ridiculous? Are these caricature people, or are they genuinely people of the time? I don't know if it's overacting or not.
There were a lot of people that didn't have jobs that were angry. You had a lot of when was the miners' strikes and stuff like that?
Well, I think it's just it's just sort of happened around just before this, I think.
I like the fact they call them social workers as well. It's
like social workers dress up in that absolutely massive dress.
And do you know the other thing about them, which is rather camp? They were at a convention once.
Really?
The two skinheads from Silver Nemesis, and I met them both.
Did you?
I did.
Oh my God.
And they seemed as bemused as we were while they were there.
I can't tell if it's played for laughs or not then. Is it supposed to be a comedy moment? Well, I suppose it is supposed to be a comedy moment because they tie them up cartoon style, don't they?
But why? And how?
I mean,
Where's that deleted scene of Lady Painful undressing them?
I'd rather have a bit more explanation of her having her in her garden and the statue lands.
Is this Annika Wills or is this Lady Painful?
Well, Annika Wills can be there as well. Lady Painful goes to see Annika Wills. They're in the garden. The statue lands. You have a bit of an opening scene. I'd rather have an opening scene like that explains you all the story than a bit of a run around. I mean, they could look around the town and be a bit bemused at I don't know, a cash machine or something. But I don't think you need those guys.
They just get all the random scenes, those two. They get those two, then we get what we're coming up to with the limo.
Greatest moment in Doctor Who history.
And just back on the Cyberman a minute, I wrote down, it's sad that you can never give a pound coin to a Cyberman. You can't spend a pound of...
It's gold, Mark. It's not made of gold.
Well, a pound coin is gold.
No, it's not. I'm going to look
at
a pound coin.
Why does that sound like a song from the 1960s that they would have released? I'm never gonna give a coin to a Cyberman.
I just thought it's
Christmas
just sad
number
they
one
can't...
of 1967.
But you just can't.
Here we go.
Oh.
Right. It is made of two metals. The outer ring is gold-coloured nickel brass, and the inner ring is silver-coloured nickel-plated alloy. And that's the Royal Mint website.
Sarah has just dropped her mic.
I have.
Okay, there we go.
You can't give a Cyberman a pound coin.
Okay, well, you can then, obviously.
He's so upset.
It's the most secure coin in the world.
Most secure?
Yeah. Here's why. It's really difficult to counterfeit because it's got 12 sides. It's bimetallic, as we've just discussed with its two metals. It's got a latent image. It has an image like a hologram that changes from a pound coin to the number one. I kind of need to look at some pound coins now. Micro lettering, milled edges, and hidden high security features. All that in your pound coin.
Back to episode 2.
It's been an hour. Go on.
Not a lot happens in episode 2. It is a bit of a runaround, isn't it?
A lot of TARDIS taking off, TARDIS landing. It
literally is a runaround. They have that bow and just run.
Because they're all together at the O2, and then they all separate, and then you just have an episode until they all get back together at the tower.
Yeah. It's quite camp with the arrow landing on the TARDIS as well.
That's cool.
That was
a cool moment.
That was.
I liked that, and then it goes off, and then becoming it's still there.
You have Ace's new tape player, and that's got like a cool hologram thing on, and they're talking about the cyber arm. I mean, I'm not sure about that cliffhanger. I don't know if it's a cool cliffhanger.
Oh, I
Where-
like it. It's good. It shows
Which
that
one is it? Remind me.
where he's like, the cyber ships are all in space. They've been there all along.
Thousands
They're
of them.
invisible.
they were
So-
invisible.
Yeah, but then I was like, you've been talking about their cyber ships this whole time. You know they're there, and then suddenly you're like, oh, we know they're there. They're
Yeah.
there.
Would it have got you back at the same time next week to watch it? That's what I always think.
Mm.
Would you have sat there as a kid or a first time watching it and gone, I'm going to tune in next week, see what happens?
Oh, well, I would with the Cybermen arriving, but I'm not sure
I
about.
think that's it. I think it's because, the Cybermen are there. And I think as well, maybe it's... Would you have known it's only a 3-episode story at that point?
I would think so. I would think so.
I want to see how it concludes. Or would I be thinking, next week's another episode?
Again, I think it's because of all these. There's so many deleted scenes that probably would help the story along a bit. It's just been cut down so much. We get the Nazis and the Cybermen meeting in this episode. Again, he thinks he's going to be friends with the Cybermen. You're not. He's not. You can give him £1, but you can't be his friend.
That's the second lyric in the song.
So, I mean, all of that is just like, it's okay. It's getting by. That you're just waiting for something else to happen, really, aren't you? Does anyone want to say anything else about episode 2 before we get on to Mrs. Remington? Because I feel like we should get on to Mrs. Remington.
Yeah, I just think we should get to
I have also been to that. I did a day where they filmed Silver Nemesis, and I've been to that tomb place.
It's like a cool, is it? It's not an actual safari park though, is it?
No,
it's cool. There's a llama there
No.
in this one.
No, that llama's done conventions.
Can you imagine? Nothing would surprise me. And I'd like the llama's print, please, and a picture with the llama.
I think you need some of those humorous moments, though. I like those moments. I'd rather a llama than the punks, if you call them punks.
Rather trained punks.
Okay, Mrs. Remington.
We ride to destiny.
We surely do, honey. We surely do.
It's all padding, like you say, but it does liven up the story.
Shall I tell you what? Shall I tell you what happened from a production point of view? Okay, so basically, because it was the 25th anniversary story, the producer wanted someone big to be in this story. So originally, it was going to be Larry Hagman, from Dallas. Is it Dallas?
Oh, yeah.
It was originally going to be him, but he couldn't do it. Anyway, at the time Silver Nemesis was being shot, Follies, the musical, Sarah mustn't, Follies?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Follies.
Follies was on in the West End, and there was an actress called Dolores Gray who was in Follies. Now, she was a big Broadway name.
Who did she play in Follies? Did she play the part
She
that
was the one.
Sansa played?
She was the one that sings "I'm Still Here."
Oh, am I losing my mind? That
No,
one.
she's the one that goes, "And I'm here."
Oh, yeah.
Do, 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 do. $3 a night was the pay, and I'm here. That's her. She was a big Broadway star, basically. So J&T went to see it, who's the producer, and basically offered her this part. She'd never heard of Doctor Who. She'd never heard of any of this, but basically offered her the part, and she was like, "Sure, honey, I'll do that." And apparently he went into the meeting the next day and said, "You'll never guess who I've got to play. We've got a big name for the 25th anniversary." And they went, "Oh, great. Oh, brilliant. Who is it?" Dolores Gray. And they all went, "Who?" Because they'd all never heard of her. They're like, I don't know who this is. So apparently she turned up. They had to pick her up from London. So that limousine was part of the reason she was going to do it. She had to have the limousine included. That limousine picked her up from London. They took her to Windsor to film in this thing. They had to give her a facelift, which then started to break or melt. So they then had to quickly clamp her hair around. But they basically said that there was no need for her to be there. There was absolutely no point for her to be there. And even the script editor was like, we then had to cut scenes out because we'd cast her and we'd accommodated her. We needed her in it. So it just makes no sense whatsoever. Also, the actress who played Lady Plainford says she was an utter nightmare to work with. She was really not a very nice lady at all. And also, I think it's quite camp because she gets like third billing in the episode.
It's so ridiculous. Like, she is in the most extravagant thing. Literally, just when we were getting it done, so I'm watching it, and I was like, "What is going on here?" My Nico was like, "Who's the American? What's going on?" I was like, "I have no idea what's happening." Thinking, is this going to like play into something later? He's hinted that they're related. That's about it.
Yeah, that's pretty much. And there's
Just give them a lift, basically.
yeah, she just gave them a lift. And there was a story about how she brought her like $1 million pearls with her, but they were left on the road at the London hotel. So then they had to get a car to go back, get it. And then she was very flustered and she just didn't really. And then she had to get back in time for the evening show. It was all very chaotic. And then she had to have a photo call with Sylvester. It was just all very strange. That's why I love her.
She plays it really well, though. She goes for it in terms of the character.
She does. Yeah.
If you look at her IMDb, she's got 10 credits, and her most recent credit was Doctor Who, and then the others were in about 1950s. So she hadn't worked on television since the early 1960s. So it goes like Doctor Who, and then all these films from the 1950s you'd never heard of.
If you cast her, I would be like, get your money's worth. Make her play the lead Nazi instead. That would be better, wouldn't it? If you're going to cast a name, get a name and do... Yeah, she could be the Nazi lady.
Maybe that was the initial plan when they couldn't get Dallas Man.
But she'd do it as American. That would make it more funny.
Oh, it would. Be making it very, like, weird and American. I honestly thought, watching it, I was like, have they just done this to appeal to an American audience?
But no, but I do wonder how many people sat at home and went, "Oh look, it's Dolores Gray." Probably not many.
No one.
Not many.
I will give I'll give
just
it
the West End community, to be honest.
Yeah, the Broadway West End community.
Which
I will say
mainly have been gay men, actually, probably that period of time.
I will say as well, if you get a chance to Google her singing "I'm Still Here" from Folly, because it is incredible.
Oh,
she has an incredible.
I know what you mean now, yeah.
Yeah, the way she sings it is incredible. But as I think Mark was going to say, he'll give £1 to anybody.
Well, I said I was going to give £1 to a Cyberman.
Mark sending pounds in the post.
I'll give £1 to a Cyberman. Anybody that knew who she was.
It's just so random. That's the point. But I love it. It just kind of there's something about it. I think
there's something very Doctor Who about it.
And also, you have that star power, even though she wasn't much. She wasn't that famous. But you have that much star power to actually let them cut important plot points from this episode.
Yeah.
To accommodate her.
Demand a limo. I mean...
To demand a limo.
I'm all for that.
And to demand a facelift, which then melted.
You don't see what happens. You don't see her dropping them off, though. You just don't... You next see them
They're
arriving
just in the car having a really weird chat.
There is a great deleted scene of her, though, which I don't know why they deleted, because it's the best shot of the entire episode. Of the bit when the Nemesis goes out the O2 and she's there taking a picture and then she looks up at the thing and it's like, oh,
that would have been a good scene to have. It might have tied her into the story a little bit more. It did remind me of the last time we had the Americans in Mark's least favourite.
Delta and the Bannermen Americans.
Yeah, which again they added nothing to the story.
Did you not like Delta and the Bannermen?
No, I did.
Mark didn't like the Americans.
They are, yeah.
They don't add any. Like if you remove them, the story continues.
But he was a name, Stubby Brown, or whatever we called him. Stubby Brown. Stubby Brown.
Roy Stubby Brown. No.
You called him Stubby Brown.
Stubby K.
Yeah.
He's Stubby Brown that whole episode.
Yeah, he's it's the Stubby Brown of Silver Nemesis is Mrs. Remington.
Don't get me wrong, I'm all for casting obviously, it's nothing to do with Americans, but if you're going to cast people in it, give them something to do. And you see that because last week Sheila Hancock's is amazing in Paradise Towers.
Happiness
Patrol, thank you. Also, which one is it? In Happiness Patrol.
Listeners, that's literally my favourite story. So I just sit there on repeat watching Happiness Patrol. Carry on, sorry.
But she's fantastic, particularly right at the end when she's so serious with Fifi. It's brilliant. And she, I'm not sure how much of a big name she was then, but
she was a big name. She was a big name.
Yeah. So you can have big names and have them do stuff. It's just so odd to cast these big named Americans or these American and then just give them anything.
It probably was a thing because it was the 25th anniversary story. I think they were sort of throwing everything at it at the kitchen sink, and they were like, "Cameo for an American, yes, why not?" You know.
But then there's nothing. Okay, that slows the story down a bit. They get in the limo, but there's not even any story around that. They're just walking through a field before that. Everyone's walking through.
She's basically,
there's not even anything else going on.
She's basically the way they get there. That's it. That's her only contribution.
The only contribution is she gives them a lift.
Yeah, but I think also you made a really good point there about Sheila Hancock last week. Like, you've got someone like Sheila Hancock who is absolutely phenomenal in that story. But then you have Lady Painful in this story, who is also phenomenal. And you've got two completely different performances, but they both work.
Yeah,
I think that's the genius of Doctor Who, is you can have Sheila Hancock one week basically playing Margaret Thatcher, to then having this woman who's chewing the scenery left, right, and centre, but it still works.
But that's also like, and we've talked about this, me and Mark, the last few weeks, like, we talk about the silliness of Doctor Who and the serious moments, and Doctor Who is silly. That, like, it goes to the sublime places. It goes to the ridiculous places constantly. And how that becomes believable is how the actors, when they're buying into what they're doing. And that was really evident last week, because Sheila Hancock's wearing an absolute ridiculous wig, and her story is, I want people to be really happy, and I'm doing this in an evil way. It's such a bizarre concept. And yet, and this week, what's her name? Lady Painford is like walking around in the 80s and like being an 80s woman who wants to rule the world and is evil, and has that absolutely ridiculous, insane line of like, but I am evil, which is going to live in my mind for a long time, and plays it with such like honesty. That's why it works. And that's why it's so like honest and big.
Yeah. She's believable because she's over the top. But if you had someone playing if you basically had the Floras playing Lady Painful, it wouldn't work.
I think he's the weakest part in this. Is DeFlores is the weakest acting and the weakest character in this story. That lets it down a little bit, because everyone else is so into it. And I was going to just come to Ace. Actually, it's a good story for Ace.
Yeah, Ace is really good in it. She actually calls the Doctor.
She has a lot
moving
to
away
do.
from Professor now.
She's always, you'll find that she's always, whenever she's scared, she calls him Doctor. Because she says it, doesn't she, at one point? She goes, I'm quite scared. And he's like, do you want to go back? She's like, nah.
That was a good moment for her. You're sort of seeing a bit more of her character now. But she's got a lot of action sequences in this.
I love those two together. No matter,
it's a nice feeling.
It doesn't matter what the story is. You can just watch those two.
They're really good. And he's really good. I don't know, for the Doctor's, again, just running around, just sort of piecing everything together or knowing everything that's going on. He just always seems busy and is always calculating something the whole time. So that's all he's really doing in this.
And I do think as well, because Sylvester is my favourite Doctor, just putting this out there now. What I think is great about him is he's still got the gravitas. You know, even though he's doing all this running around, he's very much in command. He's very much the centerpiece. He's very much, I am this being and you are da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean?
That was really evident in that moment between Cyberman, Lady, and him, and they're having that three-way conflict, as it were. That was really evident. Like, you think he hasn't got the control, or it's made to believe he doesn't. He has full control of the situation and the Doctor, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and allows them to believe otherwise.
Well, that's what he did with Davros. Exactly the same.
And like the scene where Lady Painful's like, have you never once known his name? And he actually seems a genuine like, oh.
But that's also, it's interesting because that's also like the one I watched in the cinema.
Oh, that's what was on last night. Yeah, Suited.
That's what the Doctor does. Like, he can take you into a place of like, you don't think he knows, but he always knows. Or he has a plan. Even if he doesn't know if the plan will go through, he always has a plan. That's kind of the only, for me, little annoyance. So when she's running through the field, Ace's machine, her recorder thing goes off. It's sort of indicated that it's like an accident.
Yeah, the tape runs out.
Yeah. So then they can get through. And that's never really followed up. And that might be in a deleted scene, but I kind of was like, I wanted it to be sort of like how do we know all these are coming? Oh no, the tape stopped or something, you know?
So I think the tape stops, and then in the tomb thing, the Cybermen and the Nazis are there, and then when the tape stops, their thing lights up and the signal comes
They start
through.
getting the
And then they're like, right, let's. Oh yeah, what happens to all that? Yeah, nothing happens.
Blow up, but they blow up, don't they? Because Nemesis blows them all up.
But like when the signal gets through, they're like,
nothing.
They don't.
I see.
Nothing actually changes.
Instead, or like either that was the plan all along, and that's not made really clear. Like this buys us this amount of time by having this tape, but that's not made clear. She's running, the tape stops, then the signal comes because they're playing the jazz. The scene before is them like, yeah, all we've got is this weird music. And then it stops and like signals through, we can go. And there's no follow up on that. And I was like, that kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of annoyed me a bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think, well, there's only so much on a tape, isn't there? It just runs out.
Yeah, but was that the plan? Or was it something that no one noticed? Because she's running and they zoom in on the camera. It's made a thing of.
I just don't think they noticed.
I don't think they. No, I don't think they. You know what they should have done? They should have put the set in of giving £1 to a Cyberman. When it all would have been absolutely fine.
And then realise nothing works because it's not made of gold.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know. This is where it's rushed for 3 episodes, I think. It's just... But then if it was 4, there'd just been a whole extra episode of them running around, probably.
I don't think there would have been. You've already mentioned there's a load of deleted scenes. I think it could have had a slightly better pace. The pace in the first episode is good. The second episode feels like all we're trying to do is get to that end point because we need to be there by the third episode. And I think actually you could have had a bit more. I say that though, once the Cybermen come, it's just really clear that everyone just needs to get a bow and an arrow and be together. That's it.
I think the Cybermen are introduced too late though, because if you think about it, then it's just 2 episodes of that.
No, I liked them being that cliffhanger at the end of the first episode. Like, what happened? Like, I know you get shot, but like, there's a lot of those neo-Nazis. Like, what goes on with that? I don't know. That for me, or how did they find it about it? I don't know. There's just quite a few unanswered things that I think if it had been a bit more time.
I think the 3-parters sometimes either work really well or they don't.
I think sometimes they don't know how to write a 3.
And I think part of that, sorry to interrupt, I think part of that is because you do episode 1 and you think, great. You know, if you pick a 4-part story, for example, episode 1 is the setup, episode 2 is the story, episode 3 is the big thing that happens, and episode 4 is the denouement. Whereas when you have a 3-parter, it goes, episode 1 is the setup, episode 2 is the kind of story, and then episode 3 is, oh God, we're right, okay, we've got to wrap this up quickly. It's very evident that this happens in this story.
A 3-part story just needs it needs like, here's our one idea. Like they come and this one thing happens. And you can do a lot around one idea. Whereas this had like 3 ideas.
I think it must be very difficult as well when you have the 25th anniversary story, because I can imagine there's a lot of, right, you need to include Cybermen in it. Oh, and you need to include the Queen has got to be in it somewhere. Oh, and you've got to have an American in it. Do you know what I mean? I can imagine that.
But why did they make it 4?
Well, because the budget is like 2 4s and 2 3s.
But why didn't you make this your 4 if you're going to have this as your 25th episode? Yeah, if it was, I'd have gone, my 4 being a Dalek, my 4 being a Cyberman, and then my 3s would have been the other 2 stories. That just would have made more sense to me. If you're going to have your big villains come back, you want to give it the time, and if you're going to make it a big deal, I don't know.
But then
anyway.
the Cybermen do nothing.
No, they don't. They're on the doctor's side at one point. They're like, right, let's work together and let's sort this.
They don't bring anything to the story.
No, and there's one bit in it where in fact they run away, don't they? They're like, Lily Painful, run away. In fact, they're very un-Cyberman like, if that makes sense in this story. They're very sort of just like walking around the forest and getting scared at gold arrows being shot at them or having coins thrown at them.
I feel like we're told the Cybermen are scary, the Cybermen are dangerous. There's a whole cyber army about to blow up the Earth, but we've only got a handful. We just don't see any of it. We're just sort of told more about the Cybermen than we see, and they're just there for some explosions and some silver. I haven't enjoyed this one as much, actually. Just when you look at the story, when you really look at it, I think you can just watch it and enjoy it, and it just happens and it's fun. But when you actually want to write notes like this for the story.
I agree.
You're like,
I didn't write any notes for part 3. All my notes were for part 1. I just think it's a camp romp, basically.
yeah,
It's
it's
a camp.
fun.
And we also got to talk about, before we wrap up, because I think it is the funniest bit in the whole thing, where she screams and then she gets into...
By the end and then jumps on. It's like the most over... I thought she'd been zapped. I thought she was connected to it and it was like sucking her in.
Well, you had to have a dramatic moment for her at the end after being this sort of evil all the way through. Something big had to happen to her, and yeah, I mean, she couldn't have stayed at the end. Really, she wouldn't have had a lift back to the 16th century or anything after it all happened.
What is it she says?
Bye. Yeah, like you needed that kind of dramatic thing to happen, otherwise she would have just carried on, wouldn't she? She sort of had to end up that way. I'm surprised there's been not that I know of, any like books or anything that with a prequel or a sequel or anything else with her in, or the Nemesis. It's probably mentioned in stuff, but I feel like someone would have written a book or do you know what I mean?
Big Finish.
Yeah. Or an audio or something. Like, nothing's really been done with the whole Nemesis thing, considering it was the big 25th anniversary sort of thing.
And I do think the end is very sweet as well. I think that's quite a nice end of them. I mean, apart from the line where she's like, just how you defeated the Dalek. You're like,
but then that whole, like, who are you? And he's got secrets. It is trying to convey that there's stuff that we don't know and there's more to him that we don't know. They're trying to add the mystery in again. I think that's what the script editor is trying to do. And you can believe it with Sylvester McCoy in it, that there's all that stuff going on that we don't know. He's sort of proved to be that type of character now.
Like, I don't think I've ever said this before on the podcast, but to me, like, Sylv and Sophie are like my team, with Bonnie as well. Like, when I was a kid growing up, it was this era that got me into Doctor Who. It was like seeing this team and the Bonnie and Sylvester team as well. So I can watch these stories to death. I can sit and watch these stories every day and never get tired of them because this is my era. So I can understand that this one, I agree, this one is not, if you put the others together, and it's not as good, but just love it.
So, Sarah, is this better than last week or?
No.
Okay.
But I did enjoy it. It's one of those, if you think too much about the story, and it's the issue of doing podcasts when we break things down and talk about it. If you don't think about the story too much, you can just sit back and enjoy it. The minute you have to start analysing and thinking about the story, like I was thinking then, if we're not careful, we're just going to end on this massive negative.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a true reflection of like the whole thing that we've talked about. But once you start talking about it and thinking about it, you're like, oh yeah, and this, and what about this, and blah, blah, blah. So I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10.
All you need to watch it for is Lady Painful from Mrs. Remington. There, I've said it.
And let's start a campaign that all
the women of who, yes.
Well, I was going to say that all nail bars need to show Silver Nemesis on the screen across the country.
Doctor Who nail bars.
I think also the petition starts here now to make the Oscar award for the Mrs. Remington Best Looking or Best Dressed award of the season.
Get your votes in, guys. Let us know what you think.
Well,
it's currently the nominations are Mrs. Remington, Lady Painful, Rachel Jensen, and Helen A.
Well, should we get the limo back?
You surely will, honey. We surely will.
I'll stick my thumb out and we should get that limo.
Sarah just stands in front of the car and just puts a hand up.
Stop, we're getting in. It was a lift.
Well, I'll say what story's coming up next, which is 4.
Are you sure?
I'm sure now because it's 4 because we've just had 3, which means it's 4. And it's called The Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Oh, okay. That sounds like I'm going to go with either a theatre or a circus. I'm thinking of big shows. I'm thinking of like The Greatest Showman, or I'm thinking of a show.
Well, we shall find out. Yeah. Okay, let's get in the limo. I'll put some limo sounds on this. Who's driving?
Probably. Well, I can't do
limo
it.
Sounds on this. What's a limo sound?
Well, I'm okay. I'll get in the car. Here we go. I'll just start up the engine.
Market is provisional. We're all going to be.
I can't drive because I'm Mrs. Remington. I've got to drink champagne and have pearls.
Yeah, you've got the. You two sit in the back.
I just had my nails done. I'm not getting.
I've got Sarah next to me saying she's evil, and I'm just drinking my champagne, having a lovely time.
Yeah. There we go. Let's ride to destiny. Cool.
Be careful with that chair, Sarah. Just don't throw it out the window.
Right.
The limo's on low. Sorry.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you
for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And they can find you on Twitter, can't they?
They can.
Where is that?
Where's Twitter?
You'll be really surprised to hear, and I'm glad you both sat down. My Twitter handle is Mrs. Remington Fan. And you know what, listeners and viewers? Sarah now knows what the heck I'm on about.
It's taken 4.5 years, but yeah, we're there now.
She's here.
I was going to say as well, because she's not called Mrs. Remington in the actual show, is she?
Yeah.
It's only on the
yeah,
credits.
no, she is. She goes,
Did she say that?
She goes, the Remington from Remington Range. And she's like, I know them. I did away with the cook. Well, this is extraordinary. My family tree.
Okay.
I'm available for voiceovers and stuff.
And you can find us at 2WatchWho on Twitter and Instagram, and you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho, and we will see you all next week. Let's drive.
Bye.
Bye.
We ride to destiny. There are
2 Watch Who.